something's gotta change. We gotta start talking and telling the truth without the fear of judgment. Gotta come together and really start loving and heal these people, cause they slowly dying. Help them believe that their life is worth living. God sees you, and God hears you. Yes, God loves you. I pray there's an end to this suicide demon. We losing people too soon, they cutting and bleeding. They think no one cares, so I wrote this song to tell you, my God, He cares and He can heal you. He sees you when you're crying yourself to sleep, wondering if anybody hears me. You tell yourself you can't go on no more, but your life is worth fighting for. Don't leave this world too soon. There's so many people who really love you. Jesus is calling for you. He knows and He can heal you. I know you're hurting deep down inside, but my God, He came to give you life. You think no one cares, so you just sit there. I'm talking to you, get up from there. You gotta believe there's something better. So much better. God put purpose deep inside of you. The whole world is waiting for you. You.
So, Jacqueline.
Yes, Mom?
I wanted to talk to you about something, and... Oh, wait, hold on. I just got a text. Oh, there's another one. Wow. Busy me. So, anyway...
Oh, wait, Mom. I just got a message. My friends keep commenting on my comment. Oh, there's another one. So many comments on my comment.
Oh, I can't wait to watch TV tonight. Playoffs!
Hey, guys, check out my new video game. Pew, pew.
Wait, Mom, what? Huh?
What? Hold
What'd
on.
you say? Wait a second, what?
This weekend, unplug. Take your family to the forest. There's nothing in the world like experiencing nature firsthand. Trees, paths, bluebirds, streams. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Here's what you missed on Salacious Life Radio.
You know, when it comes to your children, especially if you're dating someone that you actually like, you do want it to work. So you're gonna hope and encourage the relationship between your child and that person because you like that person, you know. So you're gonna hope for the best. I mean, sometimes it just doesn't work, and you can't make it work. You can't force it. It's like a branch. You keep bending it. Eventually, it'll snap, and even if you put it back together, it'll never be what it once was. But you definitely pray on it. You hope for the best, you know, because like nobody wants to spend the rest of their life alone just because a particular relationship didn't work out, but you had this beautiful creature as a result of it, you know. But you don't want to necessarily spend and you're not all of a sudden a bad person. You're not all of a sudden not going to fulfill this other person's needs.
You, madam, are a harlot and a scoundrel.
Because I had one kid while I was still married. Like,
but what if you?
I take that back.
What if the situation turns around the other way? So you ready for your child to meet? They meet the person, and this person is a giver. So this person's buying your child lots of gifts and wanting to.
I would usually.
Stop.
Do you
right,
let?
You don't like if it's a birthday or some sort of holiday or something like that. Okay, and they want to get them a few things or get them something. Okay, but just on like a regular.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Now we're talking with Mervin A. Bourne Jr.
and Lolita E. Walker,
where you get it from a man's
and a woman's perspective.
Okay. Oh, yes, I can hear myself now. Thank you. Thanks, Nate. That's Nate, everybody. So I'll say again, welcome to Now We're Talking with Mervin A. Bourne and Lolita E. Walker. This is week 3 in our communities, and we are talking forgiveness, how it shapes us, how it shapes how we interact inside of our communities, how it just shapes the people that we are. Some of the questions we're going to tackle today are, what is forgiveness? What is forgiveness not? Sometimes we get caught up in ego and pride. Sometimes our hurt feelings are just standing right before us, and it's very difficult for us to forgive. Sometimes it's really just forgiving ourselves. So I heard a lot of questions from you guys offline throughout the course of the week, and some were, how do I start forgiving? So we have a powerful panel that's coming in today that I want to talk to you a little bit about. The first person that we have on our panel is Tara Chaney. And Tara Chaney is a native Baltimorean who brings 18 years of experience in education. She also is a minister. She is a power speaker and a soon-to-be author. So I'm so excited to have her here and really talk on the notion of forgiveness and how we start forgiving. Next, we have Allison Daniels, who is from Washington, D.C., and she has authored 31 books. Crazy, right? 31 books. She's also a motivational speaker. She's a reverend, and she's the owner of several businesses. I'll have her talk a little bit about it, but one of her businesses is Allison Daniels Ministry, coaching and consulting business. So Allison is a coach. She's a reverend. She's co-authored books. She's authored books. She's going to talk to us a little bit about that as well. Then we have Dr. Joanne Frederick, and she's been in the field of consulting for over 25 years. She has a couple of practices, and forgiveness is where she always starts with her clients. So I'm really excited to have her and have us talk through the mindset shift as we begin to forgive. Forgiveness is such a tough topic, right? Is there something that you individually are holding on to right now that you know you need to forgive? Well, you're in a perfect place. I know for me, it is very difficult sometimes to forgive. And as I was doing some research for this show today, I was thinking, why is it so difficult for us to forgive? And for me, individually, it is that your feelings get hurt so deeply when you feel that you've been wronged. When you feel that someone has done something to you and now you become the victim, you start to live in this place of blaming others for what happens. Then you think about it and think about it more and more, and it just becomes like rocks that's in this book bag that you're carrying. So those are some of the things I want to talk to our panel today when they come in after our first break. As you know, I'm an author as well, the author of The Intersection of You and Change, which is right there on the table as well. And one of the things I want to start today with is Forgiveness Freeway, which is chapter 6 of my book. And I want to read to you a poem that I'd like for you to think a little bit about as we go throughout this first quick segment. All right, are you ready? Because I'm ready. Forgiveness. Forgiveness Freeway sometimes journeys you to lands which are unknown, opening your eyes to self-mercy with a focus on what you've previously shown. Remembering you have control over yourself, which is where forgiveness must start. Giving freely of your mind, your spirit, and your heart. It's time to acknowledge where you are and find lessons in what didn't work so well. Venture upon a new journey to make memories you'll one day tell. Empower others to join you by inviting them to Forgiveness Freeway as well. Now it's time to let go of what you may or may not have done. Exercise the strength to acknowledge that your new journey has only just begun. Soon your inner peace will absolve you of any guilt you may still feel. Start with you by commencing a process that allows you to simply heal. Welcome to Forgiveness Freeway. So my book takes you aboard Lolita's Change Train, and it journeys you through these 17 stops of self-discovery. And stop 6 is Forgiveness Freeway. And we talk about it. Some of the things that I'll be talking to the panel about that's called out right here is healing, right? Starting with you, inviting others to also forgive, inviting yourself to forgive. Giving freely of your mind, your spirit, and your heart. Because there's some vulnerabilities, right, when you go to forgive. Opening your eyes to self-mercy. Opening your eyes to what you can control and then what you can give freely of yourself. So I'm just so super excited to talk to our guests. If you have any questions, you can feel free to dial us directly at 410-702-5657. Again, that's 410-702-5657. And you have a little bit of time. We are streaming live on our Facebook page. Now We're Talking. We're also on BeExposedRadio.com. We're on YouTube, Be Exposed Radio, and we're also on Facebook on Be Exposed Radio's page. Last week, we talked self-help, self-healing, and I was a guest speaker. Woohoo! Next week, we're talking business building. And when we talk that, we're talking about the business of building your family. And my co-host, Mervin A. Bourne, has written a book. It's called A Single Mother's Guide to Raising a Son, which is so powerful and also has aspects of forgiveness in that as well. So we're going to have another group panel discussion where we're going to talk a little bit about that. So stepping back for the couple of minutes that we have before we bring the panel in, let's talk about last week. Mervin's traveling this week. What did I have going on this week that I'm really excited about? We talk wins in the start of our show. So the win that I had this week is that I've closed out everything for my Saturday retreat. I mentioned to you guys that I have women's retreats twice a year in February and in September. And one of the aspects we actually talk is forgiveness. And we're having a one-day retreat this Saturday, right before Easter, right in time for spring, to cleanse yourself. You know, spring, it starts feeling good outside, nestling itself into the summertime. You start cleaning yourself out. And so now we want to clean our minds, our bodies, and our souls. To do that one-day retreat Saturday, if you are interested, you can go on my website. There's still tickets available. So I'd love to see you. All right. That's my big win for this week. What else do we have going on? Talked about last week, talked about this week, introduced you to Tara Chaney, who's a business owner, Dr. Joanne Frederick, who's a business owner, and also Allison Daniels, who's also a business owner. So you have 4 entrepreneurs that's going to be in the room today talking about forgiveness. So powerful. I had tons of questions and got tons of questions for you guys as well. Did some research. Some of the things that forgiveness is not. If you were not hurt by what another person did, is it worth you forgiving? Does it hit upon that spectrum of forgiveness? Is it worthy of your forgiveness? How do you forgive? I have so many strategies to share. Why is it so difficult to do? I talked about one of my reasons and thoughts for why it's so difficult. But when we bring in our panel, we'll also get a chance to chat with them about what their thoughts are and some strategies that they use with their clients as well. That'll be kind of interesting because Allison is a coach, a spiritual coach or faith-based coach. And I am a certified life and executive coach. So it will be great to see the synergies as well as the synergies that our other 2 guests bring as well. When we talk about things like forgiveness, what comes to mind? Does it mean that you're condoning what somebody does? Absolutely not. Does it mean that you're letting them off the hook? No. Does it mean that you are releasing yourself to now be able to move inside of a space where you can be free, where you can reset your mind to what you can control, and all of those things? So I just cannot wait to talk to our panel, which is coming soon. And I think they're all here now. So I think we're going to get ourselves right in about 2 minutes. So let me check out and see if there's some things on here that you guys are talking about. I don't know yet. But what I believe forgiveness is, I've already shared with you guys. One of the things that I got this week is what are some of the strategies that I work with some of my clients on for forgiveness. So I'll jump into that. One of the things I ask is, why do you feel hurt? What has happened to you that you feel like there's been a wrong done to you? How do you believe you are a victim in this situation? Let's talk about it. Is it important for you to really understand deeply the why this was caused, or is it more important to figure out the how you're going to move forward? Is it important that you condone this behavior? No, because what does forgiveness really mean to you? Forgiveness is about you moving on. And I can't wait to hear what our guests have to say in a couple of minutes. But my notion is that forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about forgiving you so that then you can move on, getting past the hurt and really working on what that hurt is and what it's going to take in order to move forward. Make sense? I know I said a lot packed in once, and we haven't even gotten the other 3 guests into the room yet. So what I can commit to is that we are going to take it in chunks. We're going to break down all of these questions. So again, those are, what is forgiveness? So start putting your mind to that. What is forgiveness not? Are there benefits to forgiveness? And if so, what are they? Do you forgive? How do you forgive? Why is it so difficult to do? And then how does forgiveness or the lack thereof impact our work, impact us, impact the way that we move, impact our communities? Because you recognize already, right, that the way you feel inside comes out. And that energy jumps into someone else, right? So we're going to take a break, and we'll be back with Now We're Talking with Mervin A. Bourne and Lolita Walker.
Jason, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no way of recruiting or even meeting you. This interview didn't happen.
It may sound ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. There's a huge pool of talent your company is missing out on. Meet the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Man, we really could have used him.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
My name is Ruth Rusey. I'm a retired teacher. I'm 91 years old, and this is how I live united. I say retired, but not really. Once a week, I read books to children as part of United Way's education program. Reading to a child creates links between language and literacy. It creates a bond between grown-up and child. And believe it or not, it prepares them for a better academic future. Oh, we read about frogs and flies and pigs with wings, all sorts of juicy stuff. It's a joy to watch all those little faces. I figure I have the time and they have the need. And I've always believed that if we're not here to help each other, then what are we here for really? My name is Ruth Rusey. I help kids prepare to succeed in school. So I don't just wear the
Long
shirt.
live Pop. Y'all can go ahead and cry now. I'ma show these niggas what to do with one of your beats, man. I am Gas, by the way. Strong woman story should have been on CNN. Nobody knows what it's like being Gwen. Windows closed in the house, it ain't no CNN. Can't gain weight for years, she been being thin. Single mother, no help from the system. When they was giving out food stamps, she missed them. Birth certificate, baby daddy, she couldn't list them. But her son was so beautiful.
Whoa. The moment my son saw a redwood tree
It's huge!
is the moment I knew that for him,
You can't even see the top of that thing.
even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Just a Bit Outside radio show.
There is one glaring stat that I read about while watching the games over the weekend. New York Yankees went 22 straight innings with at least one strikeout.
Really?
That's a major league record for the postseason.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting statistic.
It is, and then when you think about it, it's like, okay, that, to me, that's like a big reason why, they're losing right now.
This is a Poverty ENT exclusive. Next stop, Texaco.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Now we're talking with Mervin A. Bourne Jr.
and Lolita E. Walker,
where you get it from a man's
and a woman's perspective.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Now We're Talking with Mervin A. Bourne and Lolita E. Walker. I am so excited to have our three amazing women panel that's here, and we are talking forgiveness. So for all of you guys that just joined here on the panel with me, I have Tara Chaney, I have Dr. Joanne Frederick, and I have Reverend Allison. So I'm just so excited to have you guys here today. Now, we're talking forgiveness, and I talked a little bit about what we're going to talk about. So in case you guys didn't hear there, and I want to bring you guys up to speed, some of what we're talking about is 1, what is forgiveness? Okay. 2, what is forgiveness not? 3, are there benefits to forgiveness? 4, how do you forgive? Don't worry, I'm going to ask it to you guys in questions. Okay. And then, why is this so difficult to do? Right. Forgiveness is one of the most difficult things ever. But first, let's take it back so you could tell our audience a little bit about you. So we'll just go right down the line. Tell us about you, what you do, who you are.
So I'm Tara Chaney. I wear a lot of hats, but most importantly, I am a person that has been through enough. That the topic of forgiveness is one that I've lived personally, and also one that I've been able to minister people through as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm a minister, I'm an educator, I've started businesses, I'm also a wife and a mother. So the topic of forgiveness is a daily act. So it's the act of forgiveness, and that's what I'll be talking about today. So I'm excited to be able to show just how the myths and debunking some of that, so people can walk away realizing that it can be done.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that.
Hi, thank you, Lolita, for having us here today. My name is Dr. Joanne Frederick, and I am a licensed professional counselor and a university professor. I'm licensed in Maryland and DC to perform talk therapy with people, and I teach counseling and psychology. So I'm also in private practice. So one of the things in terms of healing that comes up in therapy is about forgiveness. So we'll talk more about that as we continue.
Healing, yes, we are absolutely going to talk that.
Yes.
Hello, awesome people. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
My name is Allison Daniels. I am an award-winning best-selling author. I've written over 31 books. One of the books where I am a co-author in, I will be talking about forgive, live through it, grow through it, and I actually help others learn how to live through the forgiveness and to be able to move to their next level.
Oh, look at that. Now, tell me this is not a power panel right here, right? Yes.
Right.
So each of us and each of you have expertise on forgiveness. And what I heard is whether it's personal or professional, it's something that we all go through. Forgiveness doesn't matter if you're down here or all the way up here, right? So I'll start with you, Dr. Joanne. You talked about talk therapy. Tell us what that is.
Yeah, so first of all, everyone needs talk therapy. It can look in various forms. Sometimes we're talking to friends, a family, a clergy member, but sometimes we talk to a professional who is licensed and have no connection with you. And so many times they're a little bit more tolerant and non-judgmental because they're new to you. They're working as a partner. And so that's a form of healing, is talking through the issue, the concern.
Communication.
Communication.
How do you find communication in a form of forgiveness? Is that a big deal?
It's a big deal because, speaking about one of the myths I talked about, people have believed that forgiveness is a process. And so because they think, which is not, and we'll get into more of that later, I'm assuming, that forgiveness is a process, they start to try to talk themselves in and out of it. And why should I and why shouldn't I? And so if you're going through some kind of therapy, what you're doing is you're getting up to the point where you can get to the act of forgiving. And so the communication is important because once you talk yourself through, you'll realize that the act of forgiveness is actually instant. It's not the process. The process is rebuilding the trust. The process is rebuilding or deciding not to rebuild the relationship, but the act itself is instant. So the communication, it depends on exactly what you're using it for, because some people will use the communication as a way to almost re-indict or punish the person. So it depends on what you're doing, because then you start to get those emotions again. So whenever we're talking, we actually start to relive, because our minds are attached to our emotions. So when you're talking about it again, you'll start to relive it again. So if you're thinking about trying to forgive someone or taking that act of forgiveness, then that communication is going to get you to the point where you're going to start to relive and start to have those emotions again. So if you're not clear on what those emotions are and what those emotions do to you, then the communication can actually put you further away if you don't have someone, like you said, who's licensed enough and professional enough to draw it back out of you. That your ultimate goal is forgiveness. It's not to relive your trauma. So that's what's important with what you do.
Yeah,
very important.
definitely. And one thing, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
One thing I'll also add is many times when people come to talk about an issue, this is the first time they may even open their mouth and talk about it.
To say it out loud.
To say it out loud. And then also communication can also be drawing and coloring, because sometimes the trauma is so much that there is no words to express it, but I can take a coloring book or some pens and markers and kind of draw out my feelings or even the incident that happened.
Yes. So let me pause right there and say, just to piggyback on what we talked last week, because all of this really is a train that goes on each other. So last week we talked about self-help, self-love, and self-discovery. And when you talk about the power in your voice, so articulating it begins the process, even of forgiveness. So let me go to you, Reverend Allison.
One of the things that I think will happen first is that you'll learn how to forgive yourself and not blame yourself for what actually happened. And when you get to that point is when I believe that you'll start learning how to forgive that person. But it's only until you start really doing that, have that inner dialogue of that self-love and that self-appreciation all over again, because if you've lost that trust due to being hurt, it's hard to regain it until you can kind of build yourself back up again. And my title, and my title in this book is called Forgive, Live Through It, Grow Through It. And that's what I had to do, was be able to live through it. But even live through it, you had to be able to grow through it.
Yes. So one of the things I'm hearing you saying is that many times whatever the issue is, the person blames themselves. So you got to forgive yourself. It wasn't your fault. It was nothing you could have done about it, and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this. Is forgiveness a choice?
I'm going in order?
No, anyone.
I say absolutely.
You say this what?
I say absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I would say, yes. I think forgiveness is intentional and it's voluntary.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's a choice? Is it a decision? I would say absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's the part I was getting to about it not being a process. Because when you make the choice is the act. Right? So you've been hurt, you've experienced some kind of trauma. You have decisions to make, because we always talk about forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, right? But the act of forgiveness is intentional, like you said. It is direct. It's an internal decision. It has nothing to do with the person, their circumstances, even if they've asked for forgiveness. And so when you make that choice and when you make that decision, then you work through the process of healing, the process of rebuilding trust, the process. That's the process that comes after the decision is made.
Excellent. So we have been talking about what forgiveness is. So far, what I've heard us talk about is it is a choice. It is when you believe you have been hurt, when you know you have been hurt, likely to your core. And it's a choice and a decision that you make in order to what? Let's go in order. In order to what? We'll start with you.
In order for the healing process to begin. You know, it's that inner that plays a part on how you kind of view everything, and it's how you process it, even thinking yourself through it. It's just kind of coming back to know yourself. You know, because once you've been damaged, however you've been damaged, it's hard to go back to that foundation to know who you are until you start learning how to forgive yourself and healing and learn it all over again.
Okay. To do what?
Yeah, to let go of negative emotions and feelings. And I would also say to realize that you're not a victim, but you are a survivor.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And to do what, Tara?
So I was going to say, like both things that were said. So one of the last things I would say is to mature. Because it takes a high level of maturity to get to the point of forgiveness. And when you start thinking about forgiveness, there's such a focus on the other person that in order to really truly forgive, so much self-reflecting has to be done where you start to internalize your own flaws. Because one of the keys to forgiveness is recognizing that we all have flaws. And when you recognize that you have a flaw that you've expected someone to forgive of you, then that process of maturity and growth will give you a different lens when you're looking at someone else. So in prayer, I always say, God, give me eyes for people. Let me see them the way you see them. Because if I can see them the way you see them, then the process of forgiveness will be easier, because I'll see their trauma. I'll see their hurt. I'll see the process that got them to the point where they were able to then hurt me. So then the lens become different. So the maturity that comes as a result of forgiveness is powerful.
Yes, such power. I heard words like maturity, growth. Because the inner you has to grow for you to now be able to forgive someone for the hurt that they've put inside of you, right? I heard faith. I heard the act of forgiving is intentional. The act of forgiving is a choice. Healing, I heard. Inner dialogue, I heard. So I think we are crystal clear on what forgiveness is. Then we're going to start talking about, when we come back, what forgiveness is not. Okay. Does forgiveness mean you condone what happened to you?
No,
absolutely not.
Right?
Absolutely not.
Let's start, you said debunking the myths. Let's start demystifying what those are so that people can now say, oh, okay, I thought that that's what forgiveness meant, but that's not what it means. So now I can begin the process.
Absolutely.
What I want folks to walk away with today is, okay, I've jolted myself a little bit, and it's okay to forgive because I understand what it is, and now I'm going to walk a little differently, talk a little differently.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Yay. I think we're going to commercial break. We're live, so anything can happen. Nate, are we going to commercial break? Okay, got it. So we're going to keep on going because guess what? We flew by that. We were all in. We flew by that, so we're going to keep on going. We're into the next segment. I love it. Okay, so let's get right into it. What's some things that forgiveness isn't? Because I mentioned it doesn't mean that you're condoning what someone else did. Tell me, what else doesn't forgiveness mean?
Forgiveness doesn't mean that you're weak because you're forgiving that person. It actually frees you. So forgiveness is, freeing you from what just happened. And with you forgiving, you let that person know, no, I didn't forget. But in order to free myself, I have to forgive you so that I can move on. And live through it. Grow through it.
Definitely. I think forgiveness is not two things. It is not self-blame.
Yes.
And it is not a secret. When we forgive, we are acknowledging publicly and many times to that person that you did X, Y, and Z. So it's not a secret anymore that we're keeping and no one knows. And I'm also not blaming myself. I understand. I don't agree, and I wouldn't do it, but I kind of understand why that happened to me.
And also, forgiveness is not committing yourself to giving the offender the same level of access to you.
Exactly.
And sometimes people believe if I forgive you, that means that everything has to go back to normal. And so forgiveness means we have to, because the slate is now blank, then everything gets a redo. And that's not it. Because if the process of healing has to still occur and the rebuilding of the trust in the relationship still has to occur, that means the access is going to be different. Whether the access is completely off or the access is now limited until I can rebuild trust, heal, or what have you. But I think when people struggle with forgiveness is because they feel like I don't want to give that person, that offender, the same level of access to my heart, to my mind, to my spirit, to my space.
Or the power over me to now be that vulnerable again and do the same thing all over
and
again.
That's not what it means.
Yes,
because
that's not what it is.
I was looking at a spiritual definition and also like the worldly definition on Merriam-Webster, and it just says to stop feeling resentful or angry. But then it gives you 3 reasons: because of a person's mistake, because of their offense, or because of their flaw. Right? So then when you start looking at it as a flaw or a mistake or an offense, you can say, I can 100% stop being angry at you for that flaw. But that does not mean that now I've committed myself to allowing you back in the space where that flaw or that offense or that trauma is going to impact me in the same way again.
So let me share something with you guys, at least an instance, and if you guys have instances of where you have had to forgive or found yourself forgiving and it's freed you, not the person's name, we don't want to put everything out there in the world,
that's a little thing.
But but one of the things that I found that I needed to do was to put a lens of what that person could have been thinking. I don't agree with it. I don't condone it. But what could they have possibly seen in this situation that caused them to do what I believe they did to me?
Yes.
And sometimes when you put on that different lens, you can say, I don't agree with it, but I can kind of see what they're saying. I think it's crazy, but I can kind of see what they're saying. So therefore, it makes it, for me, a little easier to say, guess what? I do forgive where you were in that space. I wasn't in that space. Matter of fact, I've grown a million times over that space. But where you were right then, gotcha. It does affect the how we interact differently, because I love what you said, that trust. That trust has to be rebuilt because you feel as though betrayed in some form. Let's talk about how somebody feels when it's time to forgive. You talked about living in forgiveness. Talk to me about what that living means, because I'm imagining that comes with some emotion.
Actually, just learning how to let go, and not hold on to anything. Or you really can't forget the memories, but at least try to, let it go in a sense that you're free to be who you were supposed to be. Even though it was interrupted during your journey, just learning how to just let that go so that you can live in the now and in that moment.
Yeah.
And I, even with my story that I shared, something that happened with a girlfriend of mine, I had to learn how to forgive her. And in forgiving, I needed, can I say Jesus?
Yes.
I needed Jesus. I needed God. I mean, they're one, but I needed that because I wasn't at that place. So I knew that I was probably never going to forgive her. But I had to see her through the eyes of God. And I had to see the love that he saw. Even though it hurt me, I had to make sure that I actually knew that I needed him in order for me to get to that next level, in order for me to live through it, grow through it, move on, and release it from me. Because even with that, when you're holding on to unforgiveness, it's kind of like it's tugging at you because it's pulling on your heartstrings, it's pulling on your emotions, it's doing so many different things. And even though, we say we have faith, it's actually tugging on that too, because now you're like, so where was my God at that time, when that happened to me? So when I say live through it, grow through it, because that's where I was.
Yep.
And I had to rely on my faith and rely on God to get me through that.
Yes. Dr. Joanne, do you have an instance that you can talk about high level that gave you a benefit to forgiveness, where you felt a benefit, saw a benefit to you?
Yes. So I'm going to talk about the clinical world.
Yes.
So when I think about forgiveness, I was thinking about topics that people come with that's the number one, what I need to forgive. And one of those topics are sexual harassment, sexual assaults, right? And sometimes this is from childhood or even being an adult. And so when in the clinical world, I do think it's a spiritual process, whether an individual believe in a higher power or not, but it is a process, kind of like how you describe it, letting go of something that's tight, is pent in, and how do you let go and release? There's a process. Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
It did. I think when we go into the benefits, some of it is stress relief or improved mental health. And when you think about releasing those rocks that's on your back, that is that stress relief. That is freeing. We talked about freedom, freeing yourself because you have gone through the act of forgiving.
Yes.
Not condoning, but releasing.
Yes.
So love it.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I add to that? So another thing too, so the other day I taught a class, right? And one of the things that I challenged everyone to do is think about their deepest, darkest secret. And everything was quiet because I want people to think.
I like that.
And the challenge is tell somebody.
Oh, wow.
So people were like, whoa. And again, that challenge is for all of us, and that challenge is also for the audience members. Your deepest, darkest secret, think about it, what it is, tell someone. That's kind of how forgiveness starts. Where again, back to telling your story.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. I think there was silence in the room.
Of course. That's a question that hits everyone. No one is exempt. No one.
It is. That's a good one.
Tell them the true secret, right? Tell them the truth.
You mean people in the room?
Everybody. The audience members. Everyone. Right? Think about what that is.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
It also goes back to releasing your voice, leveraging the power that's in your voice. Think about when you started your business. Just think about when you first started your business and you leaped. It's new.
Oh, yes.
You don't know who's going to be there to support you.
Yes.
You have your faith, you have your strengths, and you have just you, right? And you have your support network that you think is going to be there. You leap. It's scary. When you forgive, it is a leap. It's a leap because you're challenging yourself to do something that you wouldn't have done 5 minutes ago. Right?
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about, I know you're soon to be published author. Yes. We have a couple minutes for you to talk to us about, just a section on forgiveness and what you talk to us about. All right, so I wanted to be really honest in the book. So I talked about, I used to be in church, and I used to hear people say, forgiveness is more for you than other people. And I used to hear people and wonder why people didn't get that. And then I was on some self-reflection, and what I realized, and even within myself, when it was time for me, because you talked about that moment when you have to forgive, why doesn't that really stick with people? Why doesn't it really resonate that forgiveness is about you? And what I realized is there is a certain level of power that comes along with having the upper hand, meaning being in the unforgiving state. Because in that state, you feel protected. Even if the protection isn't real, even if it's a facade, you feel like this person cannot hurt me. So to forgive means that now I lose the upper hand, even if that upper hand is only in my mind.
Vulnerability.
You know what I mean? Because that's what it felt like to me. And so I remember instances where I was going through situations where I knew someone wanted my forgiveness, but I did not want to forgive because I knew it was a choice, and I knew it would have to be instant. But I also realized that it made me, it was feeding my flesh. It made me feel a certain type of way to know that you knew, and you still knew every time you came into my presence that what you did bothered me. And even if on a subconscious level, even like you said, how I acted, my resentment, you never walked away not remembering that you hurt me. So there was a power attached to that. So I didn't want to let go of that power. And so when you think about why it's hard for people to forgive, it's because who wants to really put yourself in a place where now you've let go of the little bit of power that we feel like we have in this world, but again, it's coming from the wrong place. And so that's what I talk about in the book. Like, I understand that part, and now when you see it from that lens, you can reach somebody at that lens and say, let me tell you, honestly, what you think you're giving up, you're really going to gain. You know, the release is going to come, and the power that you think you have, because this is what happens. You really think you're over it. You think you have the upper hand, and then something happens, and you break. And even for a second, you try to get yourself back together, but that's the proof that you're still hurting. And so if you're still hurting, then you're not healed.
Absolutely. Well said. I can't wait for your book. And what's the name of your book?
So I have a couple, but right now I'm doing Power Words, Power Journeys, and one of the topics is forgiveness.
Yes. Okay. I love that. And so when we come back, well, before we do that, some of what we talked about for you guys just join us on YouTube, Facebook, Now We're Talking, Facebook, Be Exposed Radio, and BeExposedRadio.com. We're everywhere. And we are talking the topic of forgiveness. We have Tara Chaney, we have Dr. Joanne Frederick, and we have Reverend Allison Daniels. And we are just talking forgiveness. So far, what we've gotten through is what is forgiveness. We've gotten through what forgiveness is not. We've gotten through, are there benefits to forgiveness? And we've talked a little bit about that. So wrapping up here, I want to give you guys a couple of thoughts before we come back. We're going to talk about how do you begin to forgive? What are some strategies that people can take away on how to forgive? Okay? That's a tough one.
Radio show every Friday 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every Saturday 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Real artist, real talk, real live on BeExposedRadio.com.
I was meeting with a friend yesterday, and I've gotten to the point where don't ask me a question because the truth is going to come out. And just don't do it.
If you ain't looking for the truth, don't come to me.
Don't do it because I can't hold my tongue. And she wants to be this stylist, boutique, but you're not doing anything in that nature, and I can't take you serious.
Skirt, 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 skirt. Start, skirt, 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 start, start. I be up in the way. 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 Running on my face. Gucci guilty on my face. I be up in the way. I be up in the way. I be up in the way.
was the one for me. Ever since then, we've been vibing on some chemistry. It's just a matter of time. I know she feeling my vibe. I got the keys to the ride. She put her hands on my thigh. She got that look in her eye. SL what I'm riding. Royalty, call me highness. All day and overnighted.
Like the one thing you always gotta remember is people gonna try to project their insecurities onto you.
Hey, there's my son. You've been in your room all morning.
Hey, Dad.
Matt, what's wrong with your voice?
There is nothing wrong with my voice.
Oh, well, it's just sort of.
I have been playing my video games and electronic games for so many hours.
Uh-huh. Well, it sounds like it might be time for you to take a break, or...
Hello, Dad.
Susan?
I have been watching TV and text messaging all morning. Yay, electronics. Yay, yay, yay.
Guys, I think it's about time to get in the car and take a little trip. Maybe see some trees, some green things.
What are these green things you speak of?
This weekend, unplug. Take your family to the forest. There's nothing in the world like experiencing nature firsthand. Trees, paths, bluebirds, streams. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Get out to the forest and discover the wonders of nature with your family, just like Blue, Jewel, and the whole Rio flock.
Let the kids connect to their roots. It's gonna be so much fun. Yeah! Woo-hoo!
Let's rock this jungle.
Woo!
Fresh air,
What a glorious morning!
clean water,
Woohoo! This is great!
and endless surprises.
Yo, this is untapped territory.
How amazing!
Visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
So when you get to the corner of Smith and Orchard, you're going to want to take a left.
You are not going to
Then what you're
going
to do is turn onto Marcy Avenue.
just broke up
and go past the first
apparently
3
she's
lights
happy
and then
about
take
it.
the next left.
I don't really
Then drive
think
5
she's
more
happy,
blocks
but
and you should be
who
there.
am I to judge, right?
Park on the right.
That's
I'll
what
see
I
you
heard
later
last
tonight.
night.
It's hard to concentrate on 2 things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Now we're talking with Mervin A. Bourne Jr.
And Lolita E. Walker.
where you get it from a man's
And a woman's perspective.
My name is Ruth Rusey. I'm a retired teacher. I'm 91 years old, and this is how I live united.
Okay. Hey, welcome back to Now We're Talking with Mervin A. Bourne and Lolita E. Walker. As you see, Mervin A. Bourne is not here, so it is girl power everywhere. We have amazing panelists that's here with us. We're talking forgiveness. So we have Tara Chaney, we have Dr. Joanne Frederick, and we have Reverend Allison Daniels. And we have been talking everything forgiveness. So we're going to do a power shoot really quickly of what we've been talking about. So what is forgiveness? Let's talk to them about what we've shared already.
So forgiveness is intentional. It is a choice. It is when you stop feeling anger or resentment towards someone who has offended you because you recognize their flaw or you understand the mistake. Or even if you don't understand it, you've made a conscious and intentional decision to free yourself from that. It is an inner choice. It is an inner dialogue. And then the process of rebuilding trust and healing comes after the initial act, the initial choice of forgiveness.
Awesome. Let's talk about what it is not, Dr. Joanne.
Yes. Forgiveness is not self-blame. It is not a secret. It is not something that we condone. And it does not mean that we are weak.
Thank you. And Reverend Allison, you're going to kick us off with some strategies. We'd love for our audience to walk away with some tangible things that they can do next in order to help them grow. So talk to us about a couple strategies.
Okay, so a few things that I wrote down in the chapter that I did in sharing our prayers. One was, what does forgiveness mean to you? What does healing mean to you? Have you talked with the offending person and have they accepted their responsibility? Have you given yourself the proper time to heal? Can you see the bigger picture after the healing process? Will your thoughts eventually lead to the end of where you learn the self-discovery? Are their thoughts and emotions spiritually sound? And then the last one was, can you share thoughts with someone without experiencing the hurt all over again.
Okay. So the strategies I think you're sharing is really to have this dialogue with someone to express what it is you're feeling and express what it is that you're looking for from them.
Yes.
So let me ask you this. What do you do when you go to a person and they don't think they've wronged you? You are hurt deep inside, and you're holding on to this thing. Finally, you are ready to release, right? You're ready to do these things. But I come to you and I say, I forgive you. And they're like, forgive me for what? What are some things that you would coach someone to do?
One of the things I would do is, as they're talking, try to change the process or change the way that they're thinking about it and bring it out where you would probably say something like, hey, I'm not sure if you remember this particular day, but this happened to me. And I'm still trying to process it, but I want to know, how did you process it? What did you think actually happened that day? Because it may just be that they don't believe they did anything. And until the two of you can get on the same page, you'll forever go around in that circle, because you'll continue to call yourself or think that you're the victim when that person never thought they did anything, because no one never talked it out.
Okay. Yes. So that's a good strategy. I think you just said, hey, use your voice.
Yes.
Use your voice to articulate how you're feeling. And if the person doesn't feel that way, what I think I heard you say is, then ask them how they felt in that moment that you remember, where you held on to that.
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
Can I piggyback on that too? Because I want to also caution people about tying their forgiveness to the reaction to another person.
Yes.
Because that can reintroduce the trauma and the hurt to you as well. If the person doesn't feel like they've offended you, then now you're at the point where you're trying to defend your emotions and defend your hurt. And then you can actually walk away. Then again, you said question yourself is not self-blame. The person, so you have to remember, because we talked about forgiveness being intentional, forgiveness being a choice, that there may be a season where you may not even want to take the step, because the forgiveness is for you, right?
Yes.
Going to the other person is a different step. That's not the forgiveness step. That's the step because maybe you want to rebuild a relationship. Because if there's no reason to rebuild a relationship or reestablish the access, then going to the offender may hurt you more if you haven't healed yet.
If you haven't healed.
So you have to make sure that you're cautious about taking that step where I'm going to approach the person that's offended me and I'm going to say, do you remember hurting me? And then open yourself up to someone discounting your feelings altogether. So just making sure that you understand what forgiveness is what we talked about in the beginning. It's a choice that you can make that is so powerful that the other people may not even realize that you've done it, because it's for you. Yes. So when Jesus was on the cross, he says, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they've done. Yes. He didn't go to them and say, guess what? You've been forgiven, because the process was him making sure the Father, the Father knows that even I, in my state of trauma, am working to the point where I'm forgiving someone, and it's not even about them knowing that I'm here interceding for them. So if someone has traumatized you to that point, and when we talk about forgiveness, it's usually something that's really traumatizing, because you can forgive for stuff that we consider, because humans, we have a chain, right? What's really traumatic and what's not traumatic, right? So sexual abuse, murder, things like that are really traumatizing. Those are the things that we struggle with forgiving. Yes. So it's easy to say, yeah, I forgive you for, stealing my shirt or doing something that may not be as trivial. But when it's a heart scar, when it's a trauma, when it's a sexual assault, when it's a murder, when it's an abuse, it's a lot deeper than that. So the forgiveness may just be about me walking away from a situation and being someone who has experienced trauma in my life and experienced personal trauma and violence. There are people that I have forgiven that I have never met, that I will probably never see. But because their choice was intentional for me, what I told myself was, this is about me recognizing that everyone has a flaw.
Yes.
And in order for me to be forgiven, I have to make sure that I give forgiveness. And I may not ever even need you in my space again. Because what I will not do is like you said, confuse forgiveness with the same level of access and trust.
I think too, as we all build upon kind of this awesome discussion, is recognizing that forgiveness is for you, but also understanding that one of the steps could be speaking to another person, not to make sure they agree with me, because like you said, I'm not asking for permission. This is how I felt. But I think it's also, to your point, cautioning that, because you've got to step back. you've got to make sure that you've done some self-discovery first to even understand why is it that I'm even hurt off of this. Because in my mind, although I've never experienced a murder in my face, and I can't understand that, sometimes the pain that's so deep within me rises up to this spectrum that in my mind is as high as somebody else's murder, right? And for me, it's so deep. So being able to step back from that, assess like, why is it that I'm feeling like this in the first place? Understanding that, then growing from that. When you can ask yourself some of those questions, then you can ask yourself, is it worth me talking to this person? Because after you grow and mature, you might say, now I've looked through the lens that they might have looked through, and that was crazy as hell. Why they mad? So I'm gonna forgive, and my actions are gonna speak wildly, right? So what is the strategy that you would suggest for us?
Yeah, so a strategy I came up with was 4 points, and I also put it in an acronym so it's understandable.
I love acronyms. I'm an acronym queen.
You like that?
I love an acronym.
Definitely make you understand and remember really quick and easy. TAST, T-A-S-T, 4 points. How to begin to forgive. The first one is think of the offense. The T stands for think. The second thing is A, acknowledge, speak about the offense. Speak about it. The third thing is seek guidance, professional help, or this guidance could be, again, a friend, a family member. Sometimes people even talk to strangers, someone on the street. It's been so traumatizing, I gotta get this off. I'm gonna pick a random person. And then that last T is take your time. It may take days or even years to forgive. We're talking about forgiveness as a process, and we can talk through it. But when we're going through those trauma, it can take years. So that acronym again is TAST. Think, acknowledge, seek, help, and take your time.
So we're going to give you guys 2 acronyms today before you leave. We're going to give you TAST, because we'll revisit that, and we're also going to give you forgive. At the end of our show, every week, we leave everybody with an acronym of action. I like it. Listen, we get new ones, add on to it. TAST and forgive. And forgive will be our collective forgive from all of us here. But we're going to add that TAST on top because we want you guys to always remember to think, to acknowledge, to seek guidance, and then to take your time.
There you go.
Yes. I love it. Okay. Another, because I think we might be going through another break, but we'll see. Okay, so what is one strategy? It's live. We just always like,
and we're thinking,
don't press pause.
And we're hearing each other, and we're processing. Yes. What we're hearing, just like the audience member, we want you all to work. You hear this,
pens and papers,
right? Make it personal and apply it to you.
I love it. So Chaney, change. Oh my gosh. So tell us a strategy that you would give to the audience members of how to forgive.
I would say isolate the emotion. I feel that 2 of the major hindrances to unforgiveness are cemented in 2 emotions. And those emotions are either fear or anger. So when you isolate which emotion is driving you to withhold your forgiveness. So is it fear? And so I remember, is it the fear that this person will hurt me again? Am I afraid of how I'll look? Am I afraid? Is self-perception? Am I afraid if I forgive this person that I will appear weak from someone else? So there's always, when you start to unpack, people start to say a lot of things, but then it really comes down to fear or anger. Do I feel like I'm so angry at this person that you don't deserve my forgiveness, because that anger is there. The big trauma, the abuses, the things like that, there's anger there. And so that anger will withhold you from forgiveness. So just really being able to isolate which emotion is driving you so that you can see the humanity in yourself. And so that's definitely, is it fear or is it anger?
Okay. And talk about, sometimes can people feel pressured into a false sense of forgiveness?
Yes.
I believe yes.
What do you mean? I need some more.
So they feeling false, or
they are pressured by other people
to act like they
forgive, but it's a false sense of forgiveness.
Okay.
Because you haven't yet healed.
They haven't really done it.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
I think sometimes people's comments, so stuff like, you still talking about that? You know, if they hear it, or what's your problem? That wasn't that big of a deal. I went through blah, blah, blah. And people tend to take the dialogue that somebody else is carrying and take it and turn it on themselves and never heard the person. So the pressure can be that, and also, I can't believe that little incident you're still right? Hold on to. And then sometimes just ignoring what a person felt or trying to share. We're saying, you know, you're feeling pressured.
I think children feel it more too, that they have to hurry up and give in and say that they forgive you, even though they know that something happened to them. But if they're in that situation where they want mom and daddy to stay together, or, you know, something with the siblings, they feel that they quickly have to forgive because that's that pressure that's on them. They don't know how they feel. They know the emotions are there and they don't know how to decipher it. But that pressure of them saying, okay, you know, it didn't happen, that's not what I meant, and then they go on with a lot of storytelling when something actually did happen.
Right.
So, but it's that pressure of it.
Yeah, and when I think of children, I think about people saying, I'm sorry. So if you say I'm sorry, it almost sounds like I forgive you. But many times people just say sorry to stop talking about it.
Yes.
It wasn't my fault, you know. So do we really feel like you're forgiven? There's a pressure there to say, don't worry about it, it's okay. And it wasn't okay, it's not.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the things that Tara talked about was the word power.
Yes.
And refusing to let go of perceived power, the power that you perceive you have over someone else. Can you talk about, Reverend Allison, anything related to power? Like, how does power and forgiveness interact?
Power is you gaining your strength and knowing that you actually have that power or that authority, you know, to be able to move into that next level or to that next phase of forgiveness. And then I forgot the other one that, I know we live, but I forgot the other one you said.
Oh, no, it just was, what is, when you look at forgiveness and when you look at power, how do they play on each other? And what we had talked about earlier was that you have this sense of power, this perceived power that you have over a situation or someone. And so maybe it's just that you agree with that, and that's
and that's what I'm thinking. That was kind of really the end of it, because it was that power and having that authority over forgiveness.
Yes.
You know?
Okay. And letting go of that.
And letting go and releasing it. Releasing it from you.
So some of the strategies I think that we talked about was making sure, just give up the power that you think you have.
Yes.
Because the power is not really there. It's an ego, it's yourself, it's all within you. Right. Being okay with thinking, acknowledging, seeking guidance, and taking your time. Decision making, being intentional on the act of forgiveness. And forgiving is instantaneous, but rebuilding trust is really where the work comes in. Rebuilding trust, we're going to talk about when we come back, because I feel like it's a detailed topic that we can delve into. So if you're there live, we're on Facebook Now We're Talking, we're on BeExposedRadio.com, we're on Be Exposed Radio on Facebook, and we're on YouTube. One thing is, when we come back, Reverend Allison Daniels will not be here, so please let us know how we can contact you.
Okay. I can be reached, Facebook is Allison G. Daniels, and then Instagram is Allison G. Daniels _29, and then I'm on YouTube, Allison G. Daniels 29.
Okay, Allison G. Daniels 29. Yes, and tell us about the book you have up in case folks wanted to get it. Where could they get that?
You can purchase this book at Amazon.com, or you can go to my website at www.allisongdaniels.com.
Yes. Well, we are so excited that you were here with us today.
Thank you.
Sorry you can't make the rest of the show, but you can definitely catch it live on your way home, or you can look at the retape later on today and share it. Also, you can call in at 410-702-5657. We love to hear from you. We've talked, for those of you just joining, we have talked what is forgiveness. We've talked about what forgiveness is not. We've talked about what forgiveness can do for your soul. And the benefits of it. And now we've talked some strategies. So we'll be back and we'll look forward to talking to you. Now we're talking with Lolita and Mervin.
Join the Just a Bit Outside crew every Monday, 8 to 10 p.m. on BeExposedRadio.com.
You want to start off?
I think I'll get it out of the way on a who's not.
Okay, do it.
The Orioles.
Right.
They got swept by the Royals. They lost 4 in a row, and the last 5 games have all been decided by 1 run.
Mm-hmm.
The game before, or the last game that they lost before the Royals was the Nationals, and it was Weeders, of course, won with a home run.
Hit the home run.
Right.
They were going into that national series. It seemed like they were doing so well, and they just crapped out. They got that game postponed, so who knows when they're going to replay that or play that game.
Mm-hmm.
That's my first not for the night.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and weigh in on my who's not, and I'm going to talk about the San Diego Padres.
The Padres. That's okay. You just took my answer.
They're in last place in the NL West. They've lost 8 of their last 10. Their run differential is a negative 65, which is just horrible. So when you have let me just talk about run differential a little bit. It's kind of like the
how much like you're winning or losing your games by, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. It's like the margin of victory, kind of.
Right.
So when you're in a negative number, that means that you're.
Then your average game you're losing
by a whole lot.
Right.
I mean, a number like negative 65, this early in the season is pretty rough.
That's horrible.
Then the pitching numbers pretty much support this stat right here. I mean, the team ERA is 4.70, which is 26th in the league. They have 126 walks allowed. They acquired Jared Weaver in the offseason, and he really has not panned out. He's off to one of the worst starts in any of the pitchers in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
He's 0-4 with a 6.05 ERA. In May alone, he already has 12 earned runs in May. And, another one of their pitchers, Clayton Richard, he's 2-4 with a 4.34 ERA. And, in May, he has 6 earned runs and 12 innings pitched. So they're not pitching well. And on top of that, they are also not batting well.
Right. But it kind of sucks because Manuel Margot is doing pretty good. His the past few at bats, his last.
Join the Just a Bit Outside crew every Monday, 8 to 10 p.m. on BeExposedRadio.com.
Same respect, what is happening? We're trading what's important for shiny things. I can't allow this blasphemy. It's blasphemy. Why would you treat yourself like that? We didn't come this far just to fall right back. I'm from. Don't lose yourself, stay on track. Baby, you're a god. Baby, you're a god. Believe that. Full of the things that we've overcome. Full of unspoken battles we've won. You're so much better than that. Sometimes the truth ain't always catchy as rap. Stop chasing cheese or you get stuck in a trap. Go get your crown and never render it back. No, it's blasphemy. Why would you treat yourself like that? Stop all that blasphemy. We didn't Not to mention all of our ignorance is their permission to. I know you like to turn up like that, with a drink to pull up like that. Well, baby, there ain't nothing wrong with that. Just make sure the God in you stays where it's at. You're the rising sun of a new day begun. Grind on till victory's won. I pray you do your thing till earth and heaven ring. Just don't forget where you come from.
You know, let me talk to him. Oh, you ain't heard it before? That spirit you take for granted is the God in your soul. It's a price that you owe. It can never be owned. So for this valued dollar, it can never be sold. We were kings and queens in the motherland. Problem is we shouldn't have spared the rod or the father's hand. Yo, where the fathers at? Kids raising kids. So basically they never really raised but more assisted. Thrown to the system for criminal definition instead of dreaming for better and taking care of your business. I promise. We've been gods from the crib. Thing is, you can call a king a slave if he don't know who he is. Man, it's blasphemy.
Why would you treat yourself like that? Stop all that blasphemy. We didn't come this far just to fall right back. Baby, you're a god. You're a god. You're a god. You're a god. Baby, you're a god. You're a god. Baby, you're a god. God, God, God. Baby, you're a god. Believe that.
Now we're talking with Mervin A. Bourne Jr.
and Lolita E. Walker,
where you get it from a man's
and a woman's perspective.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Check out this flashback.
Right. To know that I don't want nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Drug use.
It's crazy.
So again, derived from the lyrics. Talk to me about the interpersonal conflict.
So let me say this, and I think that what I'm gonna do is probably challenge a lot of what we're dealing with topically.
Yeah.
Because to me, whether we're talking about material things, drug use, or anything else, it's where we teach our young people to place value.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're not going to take the person that has been given the value system, and I know we're talking about young women, but I look at my son, I look at little Marvin, and one of the things, of all of the things that Marvin has decided that he would go venture into, one of the things that he's just completely stayed away from is drugs. Has no desire towards it, but I've never modeled anything about that being something. And when you look again, as we keep talking about the cultural aspects of things, we're talking about a culture and systems that creates a sense of attraction or makes this stuff attractive, in its advertising and promotion, whether it's the material things, whether it's the drug use. But I believe that if you've put a firm value system in, and taught people taught your young people, your young ladies, what has value, and what literally doesn't have value, then, even, I guess, kind of throwing them into the lion's den, whether it be sending them to Baltimore public schools, because everybody in Baltimore public schools ain't coming from your household, whether it be being out in the community or going to their cousin's house who live in the rougher neighborhood. There can be the presence of that peer pressure, but we got to make sure that we balancing it out. So lyrics that are suggestive towards drug use is ridiculous right now.
Join us every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Conflict Resolution with Daryl White, only on BeExposedRadio.com.
This unknown to find who we really are. Crash into something new and take a break from our broken heart. Talk with the hip, tell me you lie. I think we should go for another round. Baby, try not to say too much. Let your love come down. If you wanna rule, there's some rules you gotta live by. Live by. Stay true to your cool, make a move. Don't wait on nobody else. And if it feels like a melody, sing a song, be my radio. And if you follow me there, I'll follow you back. Let the night unfold. I can tell that she can't get enough. Show enough, she couldn't get the feels off from me. I know she couldn't get the feels off from me. Touching hands till we dance in the dark. Show enough, she couldn't get the feels off from me. We do whatever you like. The feels off from me. I know she couldn't get the feels off from me. Let's slide, you and me alone, to find who we really are. Crash into something new. I got that lay bringing up the car. You throw me a kiss, tell me you lie. I think we should go for another round. Baby, I wanna take you, but we gotta groove so we can lose the crowd. If you wanna rule, there's some rules you gotta live by. Live by. Stay true to your cool, make a move. Don't wait on nobody else. And if it feels like a melody, sing a song, be my radio. And if you follow me there, I'll follow you back.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
I know she couldn't get the feels off from me. Touching hands till we dance in the dark. Showing off, she couldn't get the feels off from me. We do whatever you like. The feels off from me. I know she couldn't get the feels off from me.
Now we're talking
with Mervin A. Bourne Jr.
and Lolita E. Walker,
where you get it from a man's
and a woman's perspective.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Now We're Talking with Mervin A. Bourne and Lolita E. Walker. Mervin is not here this week, so we are sending a shout out to Mervin, who no doubt is listening in on forgiveness and absolutely has a perspective. I cannot wait to hear it. So we are here with Tara Chaney, and we are also here with Dr. Joanne Frederick. I don't know why your last name kind of escaped me. So we are live on Facebook. Now we're talking. We're live on Facebook, Be Exposed Radio. We're on YouTube, and we're on BeExposedRadio.com. You can call in at 410-702-5657. We would love to hear from you. And you just missed Reverend Allison Daniels, who was here. She is a motivational speaker. She's an author of 31 books. Can you believe it? Wow. Just unbelievable. So she talked a lot about some strategies and forgiveness overall. So if you didn't catch her earlier, you can definitely go back to the replay and see everything that we talked about. So just bringing our audience up to speed, we have talked what is forgiveness. We've talked what forgiveness is not. We've talked some strategies for forgiveness. forgiveness, we have talked some benefits of forgiveness. So I was hoping that you guys can help re-engage the group. So talk to us about what is forgiveness.
So again, forgiveness is intentional. It is a choice. It is a decision to stop holding resentment or anger against someone because of their offense, because of their mistake, or because of their flaw.
Thank you. Yes.
Good.
And tell us about what it's not.
What it's not. So as a group, we came up with forgiveness is not self-blame. It is not a secret. It does not mean that you are weak, and it does not mean that we condone what has happened to us.
Yes. Now, the secret. Talk to me about the secret. So when you say it's not a secret, what does that mean?
It's not a secret. So when we start that process of forgiving, we are now acknowledging the offense that happened to us, to ourselves, and then we also can acknowledge it to someone else. So it's not this secret that no one has ever heard of, or you've never spoken about it. Not a secret anymore.
Gotcha.
And that is healing.
Yes. We've talked about things like healing, growing through maturity, because you were in a different space when you went through whatever that trauma was, and however you define trauma. And sometimes you grow faster than other people, right? This is all about a men's and a woman's perspective. So what I can say is, in my brain, women definitely mature a little bit faster than our men listening in today. So sometimes we're on this train and we're speeding, and somebody will say something like, that happened 15 years ago in my mind, and I've moved on. Right?
Absolutely.
Do you find that with forgiveness?
Absolutely. Everybody is not going to be at the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
And so when you are even asking for forgiveness or receiving the forgiveness, you can be in two completely different spaces. It could be a week later, it could be a decade later. You don't know, because maturity is also a self lesson, it's a self walk. And so the process of maturity doesn't look the same in every person.
Yep.
And we talked about forgiveness also. You just mentioned that it is a process, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things we were saying about forgiveness with maturity is that it takes some time to mature. I remember my thought. That was me filling in some space.
But we do good at it.
Exactly. Y'all like, I didn't know he was filling in anything. We talked about when, let's say you approach someone about the offense, and they're like, oh, you took it that serious, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But sometimes people will say, I don't remember. I don't remember doing that offense.
But you've been holding on to it for so long.
Right.
And what it does to your body, your mind, the way you act, your community.
Your future actions with other people that have nothing to do with the offender or that offense.
That's right.
They're impacted by what you are holding on to that the offender has forgotten about because it was so minute.
Or didn't level it up the same way that you leveled it up.
Yes.
And that's where the power of your voice comes, right?
Yes.
Articulating it, because when you get to the space that you want to talk about it, you might recognize that the person doesn't remember.
Right. And thus, we said that forgiveness is about you.
Yeah.
Right? Because if it's not, you're expecting that you're going to go to this person and they're going to say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Or come on. But really, many times people, first of all, is the offender even around? Are they alive? Are they dead? Are they somewhere else? And then when you address, if you can, are they going to fess up to what you felt was offensive?
Well, I have a really cute story that I added in my book about forgiveness, and it's the title of it is If an Iron Could Talk. An iron. And the punchline is basically the iron says, I only burnt you because I was plugged up. So the story goes something about a little child who is before school age, so 2, 3, 4 years old, and he's in a bedroom and the iron is plugged up and it's on the ironing board and he's playing around the iron, and the iron knocks the iron over and he gets this really traumatic burn. So now as a child, he has associated this pain and this trauma with the iron. And so because he's not old enough to understand electricity or to understand the dangers of the iron, he's just being a child, he doesn't recognize that the iron only burned him because it was plugged up. So even later, if someone comes to him with an iron that's not plugged up, and they put that iron towards him, he's going to be traumatized. He's going to run from it. He's going to be afraid because in his mind, he's associated the pain with this object. But then as he matures, we talked about maturity. As he matures and as he lives more and as he learns about electricity and dangers, then he'll start to rebuild his trust when it comes to how to work around an iron. But it doesn't happen right away. The very next day, someone is not going to be able to convince him that this iron is now safe.
Yeah.
Because his concept, he's not there yet. Because all he knows is the iron has burned me. But as he matures, goes to school, learns about electricity, someone can show him a cool on. Watch me touch it. Look, it's okay. Watch me touch it. It's not going to burn you. Then slowly but surely, he'll begin to retrust and then allow that iron back into his space. Now I can use it. Now I can function with it because now I'm old enough to understand that this iron was plugged up. The electricity and the heat is what burned me. It wasn't the iron itself. And so when you take that and you flip that to a person in their situations, sometimes we get hurt by people that are in certain spaces themselves. And because we're on two completely different levels, we don't even recognize that that person was in a space. And then when you go back and try to interact with that person, they can say to you, well, you know what? I did that because I was in this space. I did that because I was in this space. And so it just goes to show you that there's so much maturity and there's so much access and there's life learning that has to come along with you rebuilding trust and recognizing that some of the things that we're holding on to won't hurt as much in different situations. You know, an unplugged iron and a plugged up iron will give you two completely different experiences.
Yes. And I think one of the words you used was learning. Maturity means that we're learning. We're constantly learning, right? And when we learn, first of all, what it meant for me. But also, we learn the whys, the hows, the coulds.
Absolutely.
Right? And part of when in the clinical world, we're learning about ourselves, we're learning about human behaviors.
You guys are spot on, and I love it because in my mind what's churning with the iron is that the conversation might not always happen right away, nor does it need to happen right away. Because when you forgive, you act differently. People ask all the time, how do you interact with that person after what they did to you?
Yes.
Because it's not about them.
Exactly.
It's about me, and I'm good. I have forgiven me for the piece I believe I played in that. I have forgiven them for things that they might not even recognize that they've done to me. But yet I was hurt so much. And that doesn't come right away. That does not come right away. For me, it wasn't exact and right then. It never is. But the rebuilding trust is the piece that comes. And reality is, does the trust always need to come back? Because they might not be within your circle because I've grown so much now.
Yes.
I can still interact, but it's never going to be the same. Not because I'm holding on, only because I'm not still in the space where I was at that particular time. And I've grown based on experiences, based on just movement, based on life, right?
Yes.
All of that stuff.
Definitely. Something you said remind me again that forgiveness is a spiritual process. You use the word peace. You describe a way of a person walking around and they just feel and they look light. That's the word. That's the process. And as I talked about earlier, the spiritual process doesn't mean that you are spiritual. It is a process that everyone can experience. The other thing you talked about was rebuilding trust, right? So it might not be trusting that person, the offender, but trusting people in situations that resembles or reminds you of the offender. So it could be trusting relationships because you were offended in a relationship. It could be trusting the opposite gender, the same gender, trusting a man, a woman, a child. One of the words we used earlier was power, right? You asked, how does power and forgiveness relate? Well, one of the things I thought about is the offender usually have some type of perceived power. So thus, they feel that they can offend. To them, they have a power, right? And because of them putting that power on, again, not the victim, the survivor, right? Because you survived whatever trauma it is, they feel like they have the power. And that's what it's about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I know I tied in rebuilding trust.
No, that's okay, because we can get started on the conversation about rebuilding trust. So for those of you guys who might have joined, we're talking forgiveness. Such a meaty topic, right? Something that gets us at our core. Mervin's not here, as you can tell, so we're just building this women power, just making it happen, right? So we've talked what is forgiveness. We've talked about what it's not. We've talked about holding on. We've talked about packing your book bag with all of this stuff and needing to unpack it to feel light.
Yes. That, what you said, reminds me of that song by Erica.
I was
Bag
singing it
Lady.
in my head just
Right?
now.
Bag Lady.
I just
If you
was
listen
singing
to
that.
the
You're gonna miss the bus.
You're gonna miss
Come
the bus.
on.
But what she's
I was
saying is that
singing.
you're dragging all these
Yes.
bags, and she even mentioned different types of bags. Your Gucci bag, you're dragging it, so you can't even move. You need to let go of that bag, which
Yes.
equals baggage, so you can get on the bus and keep it moving.
How do you leap to your greatness when you're carrying so much?
Yes. It's
How
hard.
do you leap to what's over there for you when you're carrying so much? You've got to let go. And what it doesn't mean is that you condone it. What it doesn't mean is that you're weak.
That's right.
What some of those other doesn't
It
mean?
also means that you don't blame yourself.
Right.
This didn't happen because you did this or you was at this place, or that's not why it happened. And it doesn't mean that it's a secret.
I love it. We are all in, ladies.
Absolutely.
We are all in. So we also talked about an acronym that you gave us earlier.
Yes.
You want to talk TAST?
Yes. So the question was how to begin to forgive. So I came up with an acronym, and it's TAST. TAST. The T stands for think of the offense. The A is acknowledge and speak about the offense, speaking it. Acknowledging this person has offended me in X, Y, and Z way. The third thing, the S, is seek guidance, seek professional help. And the fourth thing, the T, is take your time.
Yeah.
It may take days or even years to forgive a person, a scenario, a situation. It's not as easy as we're sitting here talking about it. It takes time.
Yeah.
Give yourself that time, and don't be hard on yourself.
And we've each been through situations where we've had to forgive, whether it's forgiving ourselves, whether it's forgiving somebody else. And it does take time. So I want to read to you guys Stop 6 in my book, and then let's talk about some things you might have pulled out of it or how it made you feel. Forgiveness Freeway. Forgiveness Freeway sometimes journeys you to lands which are unknown, opening your eyes to self-mercy with a focus on what you've previously been shown. Remembering you have control over yourself, which is where forgiveness must start. Giving freely of your mind, your spirit, and your heart. It's time to acknowledge where you are and find lessons in what didn't work so well. Venture upon a new journey to make memories you'll one day tell. Empower others to join you by inviting them to Forgiveness Freeway as well. Now it's time to let go of what you may or may not have done. Exercise the strength to acknowledge that your journey has only just begun. Soon your inner peace will absolve you of any guilt you may still feel. Start with you by commencing a process that allows you to simply heal. Welcome to Forgiveness Freeway.
Yes, absolutely. I like that. Yeah, so some of the things come to my mind. So this freeway, I'm visualizing that. A freeway is a street or highway that keeps going and going and going. Sometimes it looks like it ends, and as you keep going, you're still going. Sometimes if you're on a freeway, you see this glittery thing that looks like water, and you're like, okay, the road is slippery, and you get there, and it's never slippery. Anybody ever experienced that? You're on this freeway. So I'm thinking of the words that I heard out of the quote from the book that's called The Intersection of You and Change, right? The author is right over here, just making sure you understand that.
Right.
That's right. The journey, one of the words, journey, it is a traveling. Another word that came up was new journey. To the end is going to be a new traveling piece. Other words that I heard was unknown. You don't know where this journey is going to take you. I heard control of self. We do have the ability to control ourselves, whatever it is. But sometimes it takes meditation, it takes prayer, it takes a lot of power to be able to have self-control. Another thing I heard was freely. I heard spirituality again in that quote, and if you remember, I said that forgiveness is a spiritual journey. I also heard others, letting others in. That reminded me that the journey of forgiveness, you're not alone. Many times the offense or the offender, that same person or topic, it has happened to someone before. You're not the first, you're not the last. So there's others there to support. We can't do this alone. And 2 more things I heard. Let go. Let go. We've heard before, let go and let God. That's really powerful. What we're saying is, this is bigger than you. You can't keep fighting it. Give up, surrender, let it go. And then surrender. And then again, that word peace.
Yeah.
That's what I heard in the quote.
And haven't we been talking about all these things?
Yeah.
That's what's so amazing.
Yes.
Yep.
Without even like starting there, you
Yep.
always end up, because if it's right, it's right.
Yep. I love it.
Yeah.
So what are some questions that you would have, Tara, for someone who is contemplating forgiveness right now? They're holding on to something. So first of all, audience, ask yourselves, what are you holding on to? What are you holding on to? And what's another question you would have them ponder?
We talked about isolating emotion. There, I saw a meme, and I made it my tweet for today, and I have it on my phone as the screensaver. And the question says, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And I think if I had someone that was really struggling with forgiveness right now, I would have them isolate that fear. And it's almost like that question, like, what would I do if I hit the lottery? Like, you know, like, what would I really do? If you didn't have fear stopping you, what would you be able to accomplish? If you weren't afraid to start another relationship, if you weren't afraid to step out on faith and start a business, if you weren't afraid to forgive some person for an offense, because that forgiveness is going to move you in a place where you feel vulnerable, like, what would you really be able to accomplish if you weren't afraid? And if you could list, because then you see the pros of it, right? Because you have to see the benefit. You have to give people a buy-in. If you're selling a product, like right now we're selling forgiveness, right? So in order to sell forgiveness, you have to be able to say, what am I going to get out of this? You know, like, yeah, I'm going to be free. No, I'm not going to be trapped, you know, running through the daisies. What am I really going to get out of forgiveness? So it's like, what would you be able to accomplish? Because this is individual, right? You said yourself, self-mercy. Last week y'all talked about self-care. This is a self journey. This is for you. So if you're going to make it about you, then that means you have to take away all those external voices and say to yourself, what would I really be able to accomplish if I were not afraid? And because unforgiveness is sometimes rooted in fear, then if you can isolate that fear and see what it's holding you back from, then it becomes a journey in self-care. Then it becomes a journey, and I'm not going to let this keep me from where I'm trying to get. Right? Because if I'm trying to get here, and the only thing that's keeping me from here is my unforgiveness, my fear, because I want to be married, right? Or I want to have a child, or I want to start a business, or I want to have a physical sexual relationship with someone, but I can't because I was sexually traumatized as a child, right? So now this fear of the trauma that I experienced when I was 6 years old is now stopping me from having a healthy sexual relationship. There's so many ways you can play that, right? So what would happen if I could let go of that? Then I could get that part. So then it becomes, now I'm bought in, because that's really what I want. But how do I get to that place? So that's the question that's what I would say to someone that's struggling at this moment. Don't think about it for anybody else. This is for you. This is your breakthrough. It's not even about that person. And don't let anything keep you from what was yours.
Absolutely. I love it. Some of what we talked about before on this show, you mentioned fear. That was our first episode. What is fear? And delving into that. And I bring this up because all of it is about growth and maturity. We then talked about mental fitness, physical fitness. We related it back to fear. We talked about starting your business from the ground up. So challenges that you face, fears that you go through. We talked about how does social media play into all of this? How does it tap into your fears? How does it push you beyond where you are today? How does it get into your psyche? We talked about, obviously last week, self-care. And today we're drawing it back up with forgiveness. It's just all this circle of growth and maturity. And now we're talking, and that's why we talk on the show. It's just so exciting. Okay, so what question would you ask?
So another question, why are you holding on to this? Why am I holding on to this? Is it because I'm afraid of something? I'm ashamed of something? I don't want to be judged? I'm angry? I feel guilty? Why are you holding on?
So understand the why. Understand the why.
Right, and it is a personal question.
Yes.
Why am I holding on to this?
So what I'm hearing is that forgiveness is an individual journey.
Absolutely.
It comes in time. It's not something that happens right now because it is a journey. The act of forgiveness could be immediate, but the longer term trusting again is definitely a journey. We talked about the test. We talked about forgiveness collectively, like what that does to you, your body, letting go, freeing yourself. We talked about understanding the benefits, the tangible benefit. We talked about the benefits to your health, the benefits to your mental, the benefits to you just being able to move on, right? Another question I had, and that's in my book as well, is what role did you play?
Absolutely.
Who do you blame for this? But then what role do you play? And then what's in your control that's going to help you move on? Because what we know is that we're trying to get somewhere. In order to get somewhere, we can't have all these rocks in our bag, right? So I love that.
Yeah. And as you're talking, I'm thinking in terms of what lack of forgiveness does to your mind, your body, and soul.
Talk about it.
So when we don't forgive, you're hurting yourself, really. It is damage to our mind, right? Sometimes we become anxious, we become depressed, we overthink, we overanalyze. That's not good for our mind. What it does to our body, physically, we're holding on to things. So it's kind of like if you ever felt stressed out or tense, and you actually take a walk or exercise, you feel lighter, you feel relieved. But when we don't forgive, you feel that tension, even in your body. And our soul, what does it do? Well, our soul is internal, but I also believe you can see and feel someone's soul, someone's spirit. So if someone walks in the room and they're feeling heavy, we carry that heavy energy.
That negative energy. That comes into the space, you can feel it.
Yeah. But when we let that load go, you walk around with a lighter energy. So for example, I just saw this on Facebook earlier and I saved it. There was a post that said something about how to have a good day. And I give credit to whoever on my friend list that posted it. Thank you. Thank you. We can share it. It was something like how to have a good day. Wake up happy, dress well, compliment yourself, find something good. It also said put on perfume. The first 5 people you see, find something positive about them and compliment them. So it was a list kind of like that, and what it is given to yourself and given to others to kind of lighten up the load and to even to begin to forgive in some kind of way.
Excellent.
You're being kind to yourself.
That is so helpful. All right, we're going to do a power round before we go to break. What is one thing you would say to help someone rebuild trust?
Okay. The issue that you're trying to trust or person, reminding yourself that the person that hurt you or the thing that hurt you is not this person or that situation. So we call that like displaced anger or displaced trust. I don't trust this because this happened, and because these people or this situation look like that, I'm displacing my trust from here to there. We gotta recognize that these are 2 different scenarios, 2 different people.
Okay, Tara?
To keep it really quick, I think that would honestly, that question would really draw a lot out of me. But to really keep it simple, I would just remind people that you're trusting humanity, and humanity is flawed. So if you're going to put your trust in anything, put your trust in God. And so when you're trying to rebuild trust, you have to rebuild a level of trust where you recognize that you're still, even as you're rebuilding, putting your trust into another human who has the potential, if it's a human, right? A situation that has the potential to hurt you again. So if you go into it with the intention that I'm rebuilding this trust because I'm assuming this person is never going to hurt me again, then you're setting yourself up for failure. But making sure that you understand that you're rebuilding trust with another mindset. That's why I said it takes a little longer to kind of get into that. But if it's just a power thing, I would say remember to check your mindset so that what you're rebuilding is actually going to be something that you're not going to find yourself doubly traumatized behind. And we can talk about that more later because that's a lot.
Well, we won't be able to talk about it more later, but we can talk about it after the show. So we will have it after the show and we'll post it. But we're going to break now, and when we come back, we would love to close this out.
Business owners, need more customers? Offer fantasy sports contests and generate more sales. Restaurants, bars, hotels, auto dealerships, real estate offices. Whatever your business, fantasy sports contests can help you increase your sales and bring you more loyal customers. Visit Fanify.com or call 888-55-SPORT. Our software lets you customize contests fast and easy for your brand. That's right. Visit Fanify.com or call 888-55-SPORT. That's 888-55-SPORT. Or visit Fanify.com.
You're like an internal bleeder. Can't see your pain, but it can silently kill ya. So deeply wounded, but don't say a thing. Too afraid of what the people may say or think. So you just sit there and you suffer in silence. Your pride won't let you just uncover your secret. Don't wanna look weak in your image, it ain't worth losing. So you just act as if it's nothing happening. God sees you, and God hears you. Yes, God loves you. You're like an internal bleeder. Can't see your pain, but it can silently kill ya. Suicidal, depressed, but you won't say a thing. Too afraid of what the people may say or think. You feel alone even though the people surround you. Popping pills every night even though you know they can't solve it. The emotional pain, it just seems way too heavy. Your mind is racing, wanna scream, somebody help me.
Now we're talking with Mervin A. Bourne Jr.
and Lolita E. Walker,
where you get it from a man's
and a woman's perspective.
Hey everybody, and welcome back. We are closing out our discussion on forgiveness. It was such a powerful show. So I want to thank our guests. Reverend Allison Daniels is not here, but she was here and she laid some great nuggets for us. So go back and replay it from the beginning if you didn't have an opportunity. And then we have Dr. Joanne Frederick. Why do I always forget that? Oh my, because I call her Dr. Joanne.
That's right.
So Dr. Joanne Frederick, and we have Tara Chaney that are here and have been really doing some amazing things. So when we talked about forgiveness, we want to leave you with a couple of nuggets. The first we talked about is how do you begin to heal so that then you can forgive. Okay?
Yes. So that acronym TAST, T-A-S-T, how to begin to forgive or heal. 1, think of the offense. 2, acknowledge, speak about the offense. And 3, seek guidance, professional help. And lastly, 4, the last T, take your time. It may take days or years to forgive.
Yes, listen to that. It's a journey. That's what we talked about. And also, as we always do, we leave you with acronyms from the show, pieces of nuggets that we've taken away from our discussion. So today's no different. It's all about forgive. F-O-R-G-I-V-E. Forgiveness is freedom. So the first F is freedom. The O is opening up to grow and mature. We've talked about you grow and mature, and that then sets the pace for your forgiveness. Release your mind, release the issue. Release it so that then you can get to where you want and deserve to be. Give yourself you. It's your breakthrough. It's your breakthrough that is a result of this forgiveness. Isolate your emotion. Tara talked to us about fear and anger, those emotions. Isolate them so that you are in a space to forgive. Even forgiving yourself. Value your own narrative, not other people's narrative. Don't allow other people to pressure you into forgiveness because, as Dr. Joanne said, it is a journey, right? Value your own narrative. And lastly, embrace your power. You own the power to let go. You also own the power to release what you think you have, right? Mm-hmm. That is power. So I want to leave with how folks can get in touch with you guys.
Yes, a couple of ways. So one, by phone, which is 301-541-3704. I am located in the DuPont Circle area of Washington, D.C. I have a private practice there. And I am also at the Hope Center of Carmody Hills, which is in Capitol Heights, Maryland. And by website, www.jflcounseling.com. In addition to, you can always just Google my name, Dr. Joanne Frederick, and a lot will pop out.
Yes, it will.
Yes.
It will. And Tara, how can we get in touch with you?
So I'm excited. The last quarter of the year is going to be really big for Choose Virtue Ministries. And again, forgiveness is a choice. And so you can follow me on Twitter at Choose Virtue, CHOOSEVIRTUE. And you'll be able to see the calendar of events. You'll be able to see the pre-launch and order the book. So if you follow me at Choose Virtue, you'll see that it's in the beginning stages. I'm really excited. So you'll be able to see the rolling out of something really big that God is doing.
I am just so excited. I just feel the power inside of this room. So as you guys know, I am Lolita E. Walker. I am an author of The Intersection of You and Change. We talk forgiveness out of this book today. I'm also a certified life and executive coach, speaker, and all-around empowerment person. So you can follow me, www.lolitawalker.com. Everything is there, including Saturday's Women's One-Day Renewal Retreat. There's still available tickets, so if you are ready to just simply pause, to let go, to release these rocks that's on your back, in your book bag, then this is where you should be Saturday. You can find out all the details at lolitawalker.com. Mervin's not here, but he is the author of A Single Mother's Guide to Raising a Son, and we're talking this next week. We're going to have guests on single moms, folks that are raising children, have been raised by single moms, and so we're just going to talk about that. We'll talk about, obviously, forgiveness, because there's some of that as you go through this journey, right? We'll talk about self-help, self-love, and Mervin just has written this amazing book that's a quick and easy read, but has so many nuggets inside of it. So I thank you both for coming out tonight.
Thank you for having us. Yes. Awesome.
Yes. So if we were to leave you guys with anything, we're leaving you with the nature of forgive, Forgive. We're leaving you with task. And what's something that you're leaving them with?
Say this. Say to the person out loud, in private, just have this conversation. Say, I recognize that you are flawed, and I forgive you because I recognize that I'm flawed as well.
The sense of being flawed and recognizing that no one is perfect, right?
Yep.
And when we put that on our hearts and in our minds, we're able to just let go.
Yep, you reap what you sow. And there's going to be a time when you're actually going to want that forgiveness as well. So I see it in you, I recognize it, and I see it in myself.
And also recognizing what forgiveness is not. When we say forgive because it's good for your soul, it's good for you, it's good for moving on, it doesn't mean that you're negating what happened to you.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that you're weak.
Yes. It's not a get out of jail free card.
It's not.
You didn't give that person permission to do it again. Forgiveness does not mean that you forgave me, so now you have the permission. It does not guarantee access.
You own your space.
It does not guarantee any of that. You still get the process of healing, the process of time, the process of rebuilding. You still get it.
Absolutely. This has just been so powerful. I've gotten nuggets from this. Have each of you?
Oh yeah, definitely. This was enjoyable. Thank you for having us.
Yes.
You know, because as a group, right, and even the group that's in the audience, we're powerful, right? But when we share every little piece, everything matters. Everyone matters. So thank you for acknowledging that and inviting the world to have this opportunity to share and learn.
So listen, you guys have listened in, and share it. Please share the video with others, because there is someone in your circle that is struggling with forgiveness today. I guarantee it. You might be struggling with forgiveness today. And what we want to do is leave you with tangible tips of what it is, of what it's not, of the benefits of it. What else did we talk? The process of forgiveness.
Absolutely. Rebuilding the trust, the relationship, the isolating the emotions behind it.
Yes.
All of that.
So thank you guys. Till next week.
Can you see this? But nothing beats the moment you see that.
Cool!
That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you